So unheard of, we had to bring in Chris Broussard to discuss. Broussard, did you hear the big news? Kawhi, back-to-back nights, first time since 2017. What did you make of this unbelievably incredible feat that happened in the NBA last night?
I tell you what, it was incredible. I got to be honest, it was surprising to see him out there. I'm not going to lie. And here's what, look, he played fine, as you said, 21.7 for 12. He was efficient, had 7 turnovers. I think some of that's fatigue. He had to be a little bit gassed, first back-to-back in like over 3 years. But what I like is that it shows he has had a true attitude adjustment. For the last few years, he's treated basketball like a hobby rather than his job. And now he's playing a career-high 34.2 minutes a game. He said he's going to go on and continue to play back-to-backs. This attitude adjustment is good for the Clippers.
That is exactly right. Listen, I could come on here today and talk about beating the Warriors by single digits when Steph has what will end up being one of his 5 worst games of the year. Not a great feat for the team. But that's not what matters. What matters is that Kawhi Leonard might actually take the regular season seriously, which will send a message to his teammates. This is the most positive development for Chris Broussard's beloved Clippers since they acquired Kawhi Leonard. Honest to God. People think, hey, Nick, you're anti-Kawhi, you're anti-Clippers. I'm anti how they handled last year. Well, I'm anti how they handled last year. Brandon, if this is a legitimate adjustment, their chances of being able to make the conference finals and lose to the Lakers went way up. So I'm happy for them there, and this is good for the league, Brandon.
Nick, this is huge, and this is also dangerous for everyone else in the NBA. Because a lot of times when we talk sports and we're these talking heads, we're these analysts and commentators, we dive into the stats, we dive into the X's and O's, and we miss the most important thing. And that's mindset. We always say sport, 80% mental. So when you think about this attitude adjustment, he's telling us, and this team is telling us what they're on, what they're trying to accomplish. You look at what happened a couple nights ago with Devin Booker and Paul George. I would say that fight and them getting into it the way they did, it also told me about their mindset. There's no more playoff P. This is Project P, meaning this kid is saying, I am back to my savage mode. I'm going back to like I had nothing. This is they're telling the entire NBA Wilds, we're here.
Yeah, it's good. They might actually be able to make
Wilds, I'm skipping you. I'm moving on to Philadelphia. Bradley Beal went off for a career-high 60 points last night. Still not enough to beat a red-hot Sixers team because Joel Embiid is on fire, led the way for Philly with 38. The Sixers, guys, now 7-1 on the early season. Broussard, is Philly proving to be the best team out east?
Look, unless you believe Orlando's a contender, Julius Randle is an MVP candidate, and Miami is lottery bound. Can we slow down on the grand proclamations? All right, the start of this season has been bizarro world. All right, so let's slow down. Right now, we have to let these teams settle in. Philadelphia's proven they're a very good team. They are one of the best teams in the East, and they can beat up on the bottom feeders. They've beaten Washington twice and LaMelo Ball's Charlotte Hornets twice. They've beaten one team, the 1-6 Toronto Raptors, that made the playoffs last year. All right, and Toronto obviously looks like they left their game in Canada when they went to Tampa or Florida. So slow down. Philly's nice. The defense is tremendous. Ben and Joel are working well together. Seth Curry and Tobias Harris are shooting lights out. I like them, but let's take it easy.
Yeah, listen, Broussard's right about the schedule. And listen, beating Washington and Charlotte, for an example, isn't that impressive. Now, it's better than, like, what the Nets did, which is lose to Washington and Charlotte, but beating them you're not going to write home about. Now, losing to them you might write home about, like, oh, boy, we're in trouble. But again, let's not talk about that. All I know is this. Before the year, I told you the Sixers and the Lakers are going to be your NBA finalists. And, yeah, it's early. But at this point, who has the best record in the East? Those scrappy Philadelphia Sixers. And who has the best record in the West? The nobody believes in us underdog Lakers. So, right now, Philly looks awesome. Embiid's playing well. Doc Rivers looks like a massive upgrade. And Broussard did get at least one thing right in his Sixers take. The Tobias Harris getting back to the Tobias Harris from when he was on Broussard's beloved Clippers under Doc Rivers is a massive development because they owe him about $120 million left on his contract. So all that's good for my Eastern Conference Finals pick, or for my finals pick out of the East, the Philadelphia 76ers, Brandon.
Nick, help me out here, buddy. You stood on the table for me. You went to the suits at FS1 and you said, I need that guy to be my co-host.
This guy.
You said that dude knows sports. You say that dude, he definitely knows football. And talking to him about basketball, I didn't know he knew as much, right? But there's something that you didn't know. You guys threw me out there. You hired me, and then all of a sudden, y'all throw me out there in the bubble, the NBA playoffs, and I got to cover all this stuff. Yeah. But, Nick, help me out here. When do they give out the trophy? When do they give out the trophy?
Well, typically June. Typically June. Yeah,
okay.
June. That's right.
Okay, typically June. It's December. It's January. I've been covering NBA basketball for a couple months, and I know that December and January basketball means nothing. The Brooklyn Nets will be fine. They'll be right where they need to be when they're handing out that trophy.
Amen. Amen.
Watching the Sixers play the Lakers.
Let's head to Indiana, where James Harden's struggles continued last night. He started the season so hot, then he cooled off considerably, just like my coffee. 15 points on 14 shots as the Rockets drop their second straight. Wilds, where are we on your Harden trade watch now?
Oh, Rockets are a middling team. I think we know that. Broussard, you ever go away for a while and you come back to your phone, you're away from your phone, you're like, wow, 10 missed calls from the same person? That's Raphael Stone and Masai Ujiri. Toronto is terrible. You said they're 1-6. If I'm Masai, I'm like, whatever my offer was for James Harden, it just went up. The idea that the Raptors, after giving Van Vliet that big contract, are just going to kind of mail this season in or sleepwalk through the season, I feel like they've got a winning culture and they need to make a move for Harden.
Here's the problem, Wilds. Why in the world would James Harden want to go to Toronto? All right, Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol are not walking through that door. All right, if they trade for James Harden, they're going to have to give up some decent pieces, and they're not going to be that good. All right, this is not the Kawhi Leonard Raptors that he joined. All right, I know Nick thinks that Pascal Siakam is better than Kyrie Irving, but Siakam hasn't played well since coronavirus struck. All right, if I'm Houston, Pascal Siakam's not the young star I want to build around and get for James Harden. So I'm not really talking with Toronto if I'm Houston.
Well, Chris, think about this. I don't know why a lot of people didn't cover this, but when Dinwiddie went down, the Brooklyn Nets, we went from being the deepest, having the best bench, to now people questioning, do we have enough to get it done? Going into the season, you know, it was intriguing, it was interesting, but it was like, I don't think we need to make that move. I think we have everything we need. But when he went down, the first thing came to my mind was, oh man, if I'm the Brooklyn Nets right now, I got to step up and I got to figure out how to go get James Harden. I think the Brooklyn Nets are now taking this more serious than they did a couple months ago.
That's interesting.
I think that's a really good point. I think everyone actually made good points. I love the Raptors fit. Everyone made good points except for Broussard, who lied about me. The lies won't stand. Respect the tiers, Broussard. I very clearly have Pascal Siakam beneath Kyrie Irving on the tiers. I know you know that because you text me about the tiers all the time. So listen, Pascal Siakam, all he did was make All-NBA last year. I'm sure he stinks. But the answer to this is the Warriors. The Warriors should be the team to try to make this happen unless they're going to punt on what could be one of the last years of Steph Curry's prime. The Raptors make a lot of sense. The Warriors make even more sense, and they have more pieces to give up, Jenna.
All right. We got to take a turn back to the NFL now. There are, at last count, 6 head coaching openings, some good, some not as good. Nick's going to rank the ones you at home